Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elisha Meador. I'm a project coordinator at the Rockford office for Quest Global, and I am also a champion for culture. Quest Global's Horizon podcast, we explore the concept of cultural debt and its profound impact on organizational sustainability. Drawing parallels with technical debt, we examine how cultural shortcuts, delayed decisions, and postponed investments in organizational health can accumulate over time, affecting a company's long-term viability. Our discussion explores the techniques for measuring, monitoring, and managing cultural debt while building sustainable organizational practices that really can help companies thrive for centuries to come. So I'm very excited to get started today. We have our host, Courtney Headley, who is the Global Head of Culture at Quest Global. Courtney leads initiatives to build and maintain a strong, welcoming organizational culture. His expertise lies in developing frameworks for measuring and enhancing cultural health with a particular focus on creating sustainable organizational practices. And also our guest, Dushy, Reddy, who is the Chief Business Officer at Quest Global. With extensive experience in organizational leadership and business transformation, Dushy brings valuable insights into balancing business growth with cultural sustainability. So welcome, Courtney and Dushy. I am so excited for you both to be here, and I'm very excited to kind of hear your take on this topic of cultural debt. And to kind of get that started, Dushy, I'm going to, go for you first here, but how would you define cultural debt?
Thank you, Elisha. Uh, Cultural debt is much like a financial debt. If I explain in the terms of financial terms, debt can be a strategic tool, but when taken for a short-term comfort without a ROI, it becomes a burden. Cultural debt work in the same way. It builds up when leaders overlook values or sideline well-being to chase near-term metrics. Example, let me take an example
Yeah.
of giving a feedback. If we avoid giving clear, honest, direct feedback because we don't want to rock the boat, we essentially are doing more harm than good. That is cultural debt piling up. And over time, all these little compromises compound. You will end up with a team that is misaligned and momentum stalls. Here is a shift. Let us treat culture like an asset we are investing in. Courtney, your take?
Yeah, I really appreciate that take, Dushy, on what cultural debt is all about. I'd like to build on that a little bit and maybe spotlight some of the indicators that might give some sign that cultural debt might be accumulating in an organization. And I think when we talk about the topic of culture, it always, for me, starts with leadership. And I'm a firm believer that leaders set the tone in the organization. They set the tone with respect to culture. And I think when you see signs of cultural debt starting to creep in, you see an absence of leadership. You see an absence of leaders actually consciously making an effort to set the right tone culturally across the organization. You see an overall lack of engagement across the organization. In other words, people have kind of checked out without actually telling you that they've checked out. That bleeds over and carries over into business performance and being able to sustain that performance over time. So there's so many indicators that would give you a sign that cultural debt is starting to become an issue. And I think for me, there's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi that talks about the culture resides in the hearts and the minds of the people of a country. Paraphrasing there, but I think the same holds true when we talk about an organization's culture. When cultural debt is present and becoming an issue, you see it in the behaviors, you see it in the actions, you see it in the words, you see it in how people think. So just a little bit of a build on how you define cultural debt, Dushy.
No, I was going to say, like having that, you're right, Courtney, having that strong leadership is so important. And it's oftentimes kind of, rare to find a true leader. But when you do notice one, or you take notice, or, you're able to kind of work with one, it really, it really makes you want to kind of, follow that leader. And so Thanks for sharing that, though.
So just to add on to that, Elisha and Courtney, the definition of culture that I resonate the most is by Daniel Coyle, and he defines culture as set of living relationships working towards a shared mission. I think that shared mission is a key word. And years back, I remember working with a global team in Europe on an engineering project. When somebody new joined into the team, joined this brainstorming session we were having, their debate seemed like chaos and overlapping voices, table pounding debates, intense stares, not a smooth flowing conversation. I vividly remember this new joiner saying, "Hey, there looks like there are team challenges and team dynamics issues." But underneath all that debate, you find the deep trust, psychological safety, and a shared mission. That team, as I observed, excelled over the next 2 decades. So, if you contrast with that example, the three key signs of cultural debt accumulating is a lack of aspiration or weaker bonds of belongingness and the limited vulnerability, fearless open dialogue or fear of openly expressing, and that slows the learning process. These are the warning signs to watch out.
And so as we talk about, what it is and what the signs are, what are I should say, like how can organizations effectively measure and, like monitor their cultural health? And Dushy,
Yeah,
do you
great.
want to take that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. And culture may be invisible, but in my view, it is measurable. I believe a few indicators that can give a real-time visibility. One, the language patterns. When something becomes part of the language, it becomes part of the thinking. The words carry mindset, and the patterns are telling. So insights come from the charts or minutes of the meeting or the transcripts, that when you deeply look into it, do you see curiosity? Do you see ownership? Do you see that hunger and the humility? Or are you seeing defensive language? That actually tells a lot. And the technology can do wonders in terms of measuring the culture, also microcultures. And second thing is goal setting behavior. This is actually essentially what, when I talk to the teams, are the goals, where are these goals coming from? The why behind goals tells a lot. Are they rooted in the fear of aspiration? Are they playing to win? Right? So when teams stretch with that belief, that's the winning culture. And also another important thing is collision hours. How often, the way I call collision hours is how often people engage in a meaningful mission based dialogue. So if you have to explain the whole cultural balance, it is a function of aspiration intensity